What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2. And well, as y'all know, it is Wednesday, which means the new summit is now live, giving us another week toward the rising sun. I can't actually believe they're bringing us the Lancer once again. But before I jump into that, though, let's take a look at the other summits right now. So for Cityscape and Platinum, we have the Police Nitro. I'm looking forward to seeing how that's actually going to look. I would think it would probably look like Sirens if I had to guess, but I guess we'll have to wait and see for this summit to be over. And then in gold, we have the legendary half set boosted for the street class, which has some very interesting perks on there. I would say most players are most likely going to want to change the affixed stats on these sets that they're releasing. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are going to need those affixed stats on that. But one way I have been looking at these sets though is at least I can get some extra spare parts out of them. But moving over to the next summit, the Baron Raid is going to bring us the Fender Charcoal, which I think is pretty cool because we haven't seen a Demolition Derby car in a really long time. And I kind of think the look of this one is pretty sweet. I will definitely be testing that out in some Demolition Derbies and races just to see how it might actually go against some of the better Demolition Derby cars in the game. And then in gold, we have the Rally Snake skin tire, which looks kind of interesting. And then obviously in silver, we have the other part of that legendary set. So it looks like this summit is going to be pretty fun, but let's take a quick look at it here. So we're going to have the forced vehicle event right there, which is most likely going to be an actual demolition derby if I had to guess. I would be kind of surprised if it was a race. Then we have the 911 Carrera on one of the new races there. We have a touring, an Alpha GP, an air race, and then finally a monster truck event. Most likely going to be on a rally raid race. So I think this summit's going to be pretty awesome. Looking forward to seeing how this one is going to be. And I think the best thing about it is it's a very nice mix of events. It's like not one of the same thing. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. And then moving over to the next summit is going to be Premio, which is going to have a dazzling tire in the Platinum Reward. That thing is definitely going to make a lot of people look. That tire is super bright. And also, guys, one thing I do want to point out, by the way, is looking at the cover of Premio, that is going to be the new Countach with the old one behind it. I'm definitely really excited to test out both of those Countaches because I would say a lot of players probably like the old one a lot, and the new Countach also looks pretty sweet as well. But moving over to the next summit is going to be the Rising Sun. So for this one is going to be the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution X Fury Edition. So I do believe this might be the third time this car has come back. I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me know in the comments below, but I think a lot of players are probably going to go pretty crazy for this one because every time a Lancer comes out, the summits get insanely intense, and that car definitely looks pretty sweet. And then in gold, we have the legendary half set boosted for the drift class, which I do want to point out, by the way, guys. Unfortunately for the drift class, the scorebreaker set is not going to matter on the actual drift events, so you're going to want to go for nitrous. I do want to point that out because I feel like before I also went for scorebreaker and I did do some testing on that, and it turns out scorebreaker doesn't actually matter at all on those, so do keep that in mind because I feel like nitrochemist is going to be a lot better. But now, guys, moving over to the Cityscape Summit right now. So starting off here with the speed trap. So for this one, I did end up running the Corvette Stingray once again. I would say pretty much everybody is probably going to run this car. Do keep in mind, though, I have mentioned this in previous videos as well, as the car only does about 410. So if you do want to get a little bit higher than that, you will have to slipstream somebody. But I would say like 395 miles an hour should be good enough on this one. You really don't need to go after like an extra 5,000 points. But moving over to the next skill is going to be an Aerobatics. And for this one, I did end up running the Zivko Edge. And again, I would say a lot of these are actually capped out to a certain extent. So you can't actually get 155k. Most likely, so you have to do better on the events and all that, which I think is pretty cool that they're doing that. And it actually makes the players really have to go after those events a little bit more. And then moving over to the next skill is going to be an off-road escape, and for this one I actually got to use a rally raid vehicle. It's kind of funny how shocking that actually is, but if you really wanted to, you could probably do one of the crazy routes with a hypercar, but to be honest guys, I found the rally raid vehicle to be a lot more fun, and what's kind of hilarious is I actually ended up using a car I've never really used in the rally raid class before, the Pontiac GTO the Judge. is I actually ended up using something different this time around besides the Ram or the Raptor. I ended up picking the Pontiac GTO the Judge, which I have never used this car in the past at all. It's also going to be a 4-speed, but one of my favorite things about the Pontiac, guys, is the way this car can actually handle and its stability. I highly recommend taking a look at the Pontiac if you haven't. This is definitely probably one of those cars you would not expect to be good, but it turns out it actually is. And then moving over to the first event is going to be an air race, and for this one I did end up picking the Zivko Edge 540 V3. I would say this is probably one of the only planes I actually use in the game at the moment, and that's probably for good reasoning because I really do feel like the Zivko Edge is that good, and even on the Viva Flight Vegas I would say the Zivko did a great job. The handling and stability of this plane is definitely going to be top tier, but not only that, this plane is also going to be pretty dang fast. And now moving over to the street races right here are both going to be no restriction, so I figured I would do these together. So for this one I did actually run the Infiniti, and I also ran the Infiniti on the other race as well. I don't know why, guys, but I really like to use the Q60 on most of the street races in the Summit. I know this car might not be as fast as some of the other ones and the top speed is definitely not there, but I would say the overall handling and stability of the Q60 I really do feel like is probably going to be some of the best in the game. I actually think the handling is going to be better than the Superleggera. Unfortunately, the speed of the car is probably going to be its biggest flaw, but I would highly recommend trying out this car if you guys have not. I really do feel like the Q60 is a great option. But now moving down to the other race is going to be with the Shelby GT500 Interception Unit, which by the way is actually the car that did come out in the first Motor Pass in the game, so definitely stay tuned for the video of that car coming later in the week. I actually never got to get this car back in the day, and after driving it in this event, I can definitely see why a lot of players wanted this vehicle to come back. The Shelby GT500 in general, for example the regular car, is actually one of my favorite cars in real life. I think the Ford Mustangs are awesome. And then moving over to the only hypercar event in this summit is going to be with the Lamborghini Veneno, and it is going to be the Interception Unit. So once again, guys, I would say this car is actually pretty decent. One thing I'm not going to lie about though is I really do not use the Veneno at all. I would say besides the summits I probably never touch this car, which is probably for good reasoning. There's definitely going to be better options out there, but I would say the Veneno is pretty decent, and I feel like a lot of players probably like the Interception Unit. But now for the final event in the summit, you will have to use a touring vehicle on a street event. And funnily enough, guys, it is going to be on the sleeper. And for this one, I would say you could probably use many different touring vehicles. But for me, I did end up picking the Ducati Panigale R, which might not be the best option. Obviously, like the Lamborghini Gallardo and or the Renault are probably going to be the best vehicles for this. But even then, the Ducati did a lot better than I actually thought it was going to do. And I know I have mentioned this in other videos, but can we please use different vehicles on different events like this? Like, I feel like that would greatly mix up the gameplay overall, but also give players a different way to grind out parts if they would like to. I personally would like to use a street car on the long hyper race and still get like the 600k with all my points on bucks. I feel like that would be really fun, but I know it might take longer, but I feel like a lot of players would actually enjoy that and be able to mix up different events. But anyway, guys, let me know if you have any questions at all in the comments below. Let's jump right into the summit.
you